YouTube, what is good? I got a treat for y'all. This is a high taper tutorial with a beard, of course, and we are cutting down the top. I have been working on my shear work and how I set things up. I'm still not the best with the shears, but I'm continuously progressing with it. Of course, I wet down the hair first with my spray bottle, and then something I've been doing a lot recently is really trying to get that cowlick and everything combed down in the right direction before I start cutting. I've learned that is all about the setup, especially just like how when we do a fade, when we cut the top of the head with shears, it's all about how you set up and kind of section off everything. But I'm still pretty basic in terms of cutting. I take sections from the back of the head now, working my way forward, and you see there I dropped my comb. I've been dropping my combs lately. I don't know what the hell's up with my hand during these tutorials. But once I get all the way around the top of the head, then I go on the right side where it kind of combs over into the fade, and I start cutting everything down just to make sure everything is laying down the way it should be. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start my high tapers. So I'm gonna grab my Slimline Pros, and I'm just gonna go up right where that arch ends off at, and I'm just gonna start balding everything out. I start from that corner and work all the way to the basically where it connects up to the ear. I try not to take anything behind the ear. I don't want to start anything too high. If it's your first time tapering somebody out, you might not want to start too high, because you can always take the taper up higher later on. You can't take the taper any lower after you cut it. And then we start my fading technique. So of course I make my guideline, my zero guard, which is what you guys saw with my fade masters, and then everything that I do is just closed, halfway open, and making sure all that is nice and smoothed out. Grab my Oster speed lines, open those up, go about another ½ inch above that original guideline, and then I just work my way down from open to close, kind of playing with it, make sure everything's all smoothed out. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and grab my zero guard again, open that bad boy up, again, close, halfway open. Again, now I'm starting to kind of work with the head. I'm not trying to work all the way straight up. You kind of see it kind of takes a shape, kind of like a circular shape almost. And I'm not trying to push that thing too far back behind the ear. Your tapers want to stay on the sideburn area section. You don't want to take your tapers anything behind the ear, because then that turns into like more of a burst or even just a fade, straight up fade. So try to keep it in front of the ear or right on top. You don't want to take that ball too far up when doing a high taper, and I think that just comes with practice. I'm pretty sure everybody's pushed a high taper up way too far back than what they should have. It just takes learning. Whenever you're starting out cutting hair, doing new techniques, especially doing any type of high fade, you would just want to kind of get a basis of how high you should go. You know, make that mistake, make that failure that first time around, to where you know how high you shouldn't be going with it. Again, we're just working with it. Now I'm going with my two all the way open, kind of working behind the ear, because I do a 3 on the sides, but I do like how the transition goes with a 2 open right behind the ear, kind of knock everything down real short. Go at it, clip over comb, to making sure that I'm creating a nice shape of the hair on top of the longer hair. Clean up work now as I finish off that side taper. Anything that I see that needs to be smoothed out, any darker spots before I move on. All this is just clean up work that to make sure that everything is looking nice and smooth. Then I go ahead and pull the ear down and start the line up behind the ear. And I don't want to push this thing up too high either. Start balding out for the neck taper. Now when I do high tapers on the neck, I don't go any higher or lower than where you can kind of see where that bottom part of the ear is at, and I kind of that's where I start when I'm looking at the client's head from behind. That's where I start with my bald guideline and work my way up, of course. Anything higher, it's gonna look weird if you push that bald line super high. And then of course if you keep it anything lower than that, that's kind of like a mid taper or a regular taper on the back of the neck. So you definitely want to take it higher than a regular taper, but not so high to where it looks like a fade all of a sudden. And then I want to emphasize what I'm doing right here. I think this is a really good angle for you guys to see, as well as how my action with my blade is. You know, I'm kind of pulling out the very top, kind of digging in to make sure I get that nice closeness and cutting everything. But at the top, I'm kind of flicking out and pulling out. I'm not just going straight up and straight down. That kind of creates a fade when you pull off of it. You know, you don't want to be going in and creating these sharp lines. If you just go straight up, straight down, you're going to create a sharp line. If you kind of flick out the very top, which if you have been watching YouTube tutorials before, basically every single damn barber says it, but I feel like I've been taking a lot of shit for granted, or a lot of information for granted. Look, bruh, some people don't know this shit. I'm just making sure that y'all do understand this. Always, always, always flick out the very top of your fades. If you guys have watched my previous taper video, I do taper out a little bit differently, kind of like a really unorthodox, as to where I work all the way up to a 2 and then I start connecting everything from behind the ear to the back taper. So now what you're gonna see is me taking the 2 instead of going with the 1, which is what I've previously done. I do a 2 open and then just take it like I would with a 1 guard, work my way open, halfway closed, and then I go ahead and go at it with my 1 guard, open, halfway closed, and fade it out. I just like the way that this technique looks on keeping everything nice and tight. I don't push my fades or tapers up too high when I start with a 2 and work my way down to a 1. And then anything that I do see that needs to be taken out bulk wise, I just go back over it with the 2 afterwards. And then I'm gonna go with my clip over comb, kind of taking out any bulk. I'm not fading with that still, I'm just taking out any bulk to make it a little bit easier when I do open that 2 up and go behind the ear. When I'm cutting, I have a set technique of how I do things, but it's also like on the fly and what I see. I work with what the hair gives me. I don't try to work against the hair. However the hair is fading on that day is what I'm gonna work with. I'm not gonna try and work against that. Take what the hair is giving you, how it's laying down, how it's fading out. It's gonna turn to a lot cleaner cut. So don't fight the hair, just kind of work with whatever the hair is giving you. And right here, I'm just making sure everything up top goes in nicely. With the fade, I'm trying not to take that hair too short. I'm trying to keep a nice shape at the very top of the head to make sure all that hair flows in nicely, and also just cleaning up that back hairline, pulling down that ear so I have a clear space to work with, and making sure I don't push that line back. I make sure I follow the natural line of the neckline and also the natural line behind the ear. Then once I get done with the neckline, I'm gonna go and start on the last part of the taper. I'm just gonna speed this up just because I feel like you guys understand my fading technique and my steps. I don't really have too much to explain beyond that. So before we get into the beard, just gonna run through this real quick. You're still just making sure there's no dark spots left behind. Always making sure that the top part of that hair that's hanging on top, that longer hair, is nice and laying down on the sides and kind of going into the fade nicely. Then I'm gonna get started with the beard, go at it with a 2, going with the grain and make sure all that hair is laying down. This takes off a lot of the stray hair while still maintaining a lot of darkness in your client's beard. I like to use the 2 if a client likes his beard nice and short, but he just wants a nice little trim at the same time. Still same fading techniques, doesn't really change even with fading on the beard. Still closed, halfway open. Then I actually work my way down from a 1 open, halfway closed, and then 0 halfway closed, and then cleaning up, making sure that bald line goes nice and smoothly into the super bald line of the stubble to the bald. Now I'm just starting my lineup. When I do the lineups under the chin and on the neckline, I do start from the middle, working my way to one side just to make sure that I don't push up that middle part. That's kind of like a basis. When, you know, whenever, even when you're doing a lineup on the hairline, you always start from the middle, working your way to the sides, just so you can see everything. Same thing on the neck. Just think of it as a hair lineup. You want to do one side first to kind of match it up on the other side. Make sure it's straight too. And go ahead and line up his beard, starting from that corner closest to the mouth and working my way up the beard line. This is just to ensure that I don't push down the beard line. If I was to come from, like, let's say the temple or the taper area all the way down to the side of the mouth and mustache area, and I can also kind of visualize and see how that line's going to be created as well. Instead of kind of guessing on where it should end up at, I can already kind of see the arch being created every single time I place my trimmers on his beard. And then it's just rinse and repeat on the same side, kind of go through all the same steps, taking down the mustache, making sure he pulls down that mustache so I can get everything nice and underneath that nose. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get started on the lineup, pull the hair out of the way, taking down any hair with my open one guard. Go ahead and spritz him down, and then start from the center of the forehead and working your way to each side. Now what you're going to see me do next is a little trimmer over comb. I didn't really like the length or how well my clippers actually took down that hair around the sides of his forehead. So I just take out my comb and simply just go over the hair with it with my trimmers, and I'm able to have a little bit more control over how much hair I do take down. Next, we're going to go ahead and apply the hair fibers. I make sure I hold the hair fibers about 6 to 8 inches away from his forehead, just to make sure the fibers don't really clump up and kind of disperse evenly on his hairline, just to make sure it creates a more natural look to it. And then I go ahead and hit his lineup one more time with my trimmers, just to make sure the hair fibers are nice and crisp. Sometimes you will have hair fibers that kind of leak out even past that little clear card that you hold, and so you want to make sure everything's all nice and in a line. Straight razor him down, making sure I pull from the opposite direction with my thumb. And then actually my camera did not record me doing the beard lineup with the straight razor, but it's if you've seen my videos, you've seen me do a beard lineup. This is me kind of bullshitting, going back over my work, simply just pulling the skins, like I said, in the opposite direction. I did add hair fibers to his beard too, just to make that shit extra crispy. And then this is just a little bit more cleanup work, going over everything, blow drying him off to just give him that finished look, that finished style that he wants and desires. Adding any products that I feel necessary to complete this look. And if you guys have any recommendations on people who I should be watching in terms of scissor cuts or styling, please go ahead and drop that in the comments. I'm always looking forward to learning new things. Of course, you guys know I'm working on my shear game. That does it right there for the high taper comb over. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and comment this video as well. Appreciate all you guys' support. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well. I've been pushing out weekly content, always pushing out a video every single week, no matter how freaking tired I am. Appreciate the love you guys always show me, and I will see you guys next week on my channel.